content over everything.
Why they should see Arab.
I think the bulk of them are ignorant, but I do believe
they should know better by now.
I do believe there are instrumental people within the movement, people that are higher up that do understand that there's such a big nuance in the way Islam took root in Africa, in the different parts of Africa. It differs from the Sudan as it does from Nigeria, as it does amongst the spread of the Fulani and what have you. So why is it that they ignore the nuance of the way Islam took
We're a
place?
visible target, a tangible target. I think with white supremacy, to me, we should all be concerned about white supremacy. But we aren't, because as I was saying before when we were off message, white supremacy is an invisible target. It's a remote, impregnable, invisible fortress. We hear of the Bilderberg Group meeting. We have the 300 billionaires that control the world. We know we have a couple of black millionaires and Arab millionaires involved in it too. So like the Naya Bingi says, death to black and white oppressors. We're not going to give some of our oppressors a pass either. But we know white supremacy is essentially Euro-Caucasian. We know this. But it is also Teflon. It cannot be touched. So what does the Afrocentrist do? The Afrocentrist has an army. But his army can't find the target because he's using outdated artillery. To fight white supremacy nowadays, you gotta come so technological, so computerized, so cyberspatial. You gotta have the Afrocentrist is using outdated technology. I'll be hurt by people. They're my people and I love them. Let me hurt them a little. So what they do, let me speak to them in Jamaican. They go with dropping home for frighten.
A monkey,
they go,
what is it? Monkey knows what?
Monkey knows which street to climb. They go after Muslims. Right? And what they would say is, you used a funny phrase the other day, an Uncle Tariq.
An Uncle Tariq.
The minute you dress like this, you're an Uncle Tariq.
No.
They don't understand that this is African. 100%. From start to finish, African. They don't know this.
Sometimes Danjuma, we have to guess sometimes you have to guess what Arab is he dressed as.
I broke this down. My brother Zach and we stood in front of the camera and we said, this is Hausa, Northern Nigeria, and this is called Zanna Bukar. You know something? When you give a talk, leave people with 2 new facts. So even if they hate what you say, they will have learned that this is a kaftan. It's called kaftan in Hausa. This is called Zanna Bukar. It's a hand-stitched hat. The best of these are made in Borno State, in northeastern Nigeria. Borno State was the origin of Kanem Borno Empire.
That's a rude word in Greek, that one.
Borno.
Okay. Borneo State. You make me change the people rhetoric.
What does it mean, Eesa?
It's a place. It's a place. You know all these rude things. He's a sinful man. Very sinful. No, we can't play this. No, we can't play this for children.
No.
So what I want to say to them, what I want to say to my Afrocentric family is this: we love y'all more than you think we do. And even if you continue to hate us, we will be family. But what we will always do is say to you, when you're misleading the public about us, we'll have to pull you up on it. When you say things like, we brought about castration in Africa, we're going to have to put that in its historical context. When you say we are the Muslims who brought FGM, we're going to tell you that the word Tahara, Fir'aunia, relates it back to your place you love to praise, ancient Egypt, Kemet. If you understand Arabic and you don't, you would have known what Tahara Fir'aunia meant. So I'm going to be hard on you today because some of y'all are gratuitous in your comments. You don't want to learn. People speak to you, be nice to you, and you don't want to learn, and you're going to have to feel. What you need to understand about us is Muslims, black people became Muslim because part of this religion was we ain't turning the cheek. And we are walking no second mile. And then the Bible said, when a man demands your coat, you must give him your cloak as well. We ain't got nothing left to give. Black people ain't got nothing left to give. So do not now take our kindness from us. Our religion is centered on akhlaq, on good character. We're trying to have the good character. But when people start telling lies, we have to come back and say the truth. I said it last week and I said it this week. When we're wrong, we'll admit that we're wrong. But do not put on us things we're not responsible for. And like the brother asked just now, Brother Eesa, why is it there seems to be such vituperation coming from our Afrocentric family towards us as black Muslims, calling us names and, saying that our prophets.
It don't make sense for a Muslim to be pro-black.
Exactly. When y'all do that.
Gas or you're a nationalist or you care about this.
Just like an Arab. And do you know, it's very funny
No,
to
the
me
Muslims come with that one.
Yeah.
We gotta hurt some of the Muslims. So it's the Muslims
Thank
who
you. This
say
is
we're
where-
nationalists. So it's like we falling between two stools. Now I'm cool because I don't want friends and I don't want enemies. I ride solo. I am here. Look, my brother died last year. My father died the year before. I'm close to the grave. So it's my turn to talk. Who don't like it, come meet me here and debate with me. Don't sit down in your mother's basement in a nasty robe typing your foolishness and touching yourself in between.
Who's that
Come
aimed
here and
at?
talk to me. Bring it, come.
Oh, OG.
let me
now.
chill, let me
No,
chill.
I'm saying. Let's
But
chill it down.
isn't it strange though that like certain basic things like the kaftan, the batakari, these things that are like staple parts of the
The
dress code.
Afrocentrics wear it.
Yeah, so,
They wear it.
So how dare like it doesn't make sense.
Most of
Something
the
so
caps the
basic.
Afrocentrics wear African hats.
Oh, no.
Muslims introduced that. And they know this. They know that there are Muslim nations there were nations in Africa like the same Kanuri people. I don't want to use a second word that my brothers. I said the Kanuri people of a certain state beginning with B, right? The Kanuri people were Muslim before the Ishekiri nation ever existed. So are you going to say Islam is foreign to Africa? Are you foolish? How can it be foreign to Africa when there are nations in Africa who were Muslim before certain ethnicities as we know them today existed? Am I too close to the camera?
First place Islam had sanctuary was
Yeah.
in Ethiopia.
Nobody know that.
King Nubis.
I like to bring them the
Seek the
stuff.
righteous king.
I like to bring them the stuff that they should know. There were no Eshikiri tribe. They were part of the Yoruba had colonized them and they broke off from the Yoruba and moved down to Warri in Nigeria. Right? And I could call many other ethnicities that did not exist when they were Muslim Africans who had already rooted their Islam. Rooted. So this nonsense I'm hearing that Islam and Afrocentrism they are incompatible and mutually exclusive. Look, y'all can bin that and bun that because you don't know enough.
Bin
You
that
guys
and bun
don't
that.
know.
Danjuma, OG
Yeah.
said bun that.
Don't
Bun
know
them things there.
enough. I'm sorry. The Quran says this, and I'm gonna drop some Quran on you, but I'm gonna put it in English because y'all don't know any Arabic. Just like y'all don't know any ancient Egyptian Medunita either. Yeah, y'all got it from Wallace Budge, and he was a white man. He translated it. All your scholars who talk about you understand ancient Egyptian writing. It's a white man, Wallace Budge, Champollion, and etc., who translated it. Right? So now they're pretending they're retranslating it, getting the true meaning. They don't even know what they're doing. I'm telling you, very few latter-day black chematologists are properly fluent in the Medunita, in the ancient Egyptian language. Very few. I'm not saying there aren't, but you can pick any Muslim amongst us, and when we pick up Al-Quran al-Karim, we know what we're saying. A part of the Quran that they need to know is those who know and those who don't know are not equal. True or not? That's reality. The Quran is just talking basic reality. Those who know and those who don't know, we're not on the same level. I'm sorry, guys. Until y'all come with it, bring something. I will not respond to a stupid comment or a series of stupid comments because they're not worth my time. I want solid arguments coming from the Afrocentric family. My brother Sheikh Hassan put up something saying among the Yoruba there was a custom of eunuchry. I did not know this. I can't know everything. Among the Yoruba, they used to castrate people. Now I'll tell you what I come to under the Barakallah. No, what I come to stand by me, I like it. Well, let's show them Africa. Let's show them Africa. Yeah. Now
This is Africa.
show them Africa. We
CIA.
and we Muslim.
CIA.
We both. You see? Now, when you talk about, what was my point before? I was going to say something. And then I slipped quickly like that, you know. Yeah, about eunuchry. Among the Yoruba, apparently, and it's been long before Islam. So when any Afrocentrists come saying stuff like, Muslims introduced this castration of young boys, all that stupidness. I wouldn't do it again because I did it twice. I won't talk about it no more. Right? What I am saying is, apparently among the Yoruba, they used to do it. Who don't like to hear this? Maybe I'm wrong. Sheikh Hassan, I'm going to quote my source, showed me some articles. Admittedly, I haven't gone into depth with the articles. But apparently, what it leads me to believe is this. Among the early Christian fathers of the Christian church, one or two of them opted for the monastic life. Rahman? Yeah, the monastic life. There were some of them who went so far in the early Christian fathers. I am not sure if St. Mark did this. One of them, maybe St. Anthony, he actually took a knife and castrated himself. Fact. I'm not saying it's a Christian practice or Christianity endorses it, but many people coming out of that Eastern tradition, wanting to be closer to God, hoping to suppress their animal desires, removed their male vigor. Now, all I can say to that is perhaps in the ancient world, that was actually a sign of something holy. Perhaps in the ancient world, it was saying, this is the highest expression of me controlling my nafs. Because Christian fathers, if it was Mark Anthony, they were not the only one to do it. No, they actually stand and look at me. I am so much with my God, and I'm so desirous of controlling my baser instincts. Rip, cut, nip, tuck, and that's it. No Christian fathers did it. You know, I didn't want to mention, sometimes I don't want to follow my Christian brothers. But it's not Christianity.
There are many.
It's not Christianity.
I said even, for example, the Chinese, and I got to know by playing a computer game and looking into the history, that the Chinese were known for unity, having people in certain positions because it was said to remove their carnal desires from them and make them more loyal to the state. So it's not to make excuses for people cutting off private parts of other people. Far be it. That's disgusting, in my opinion, anyway.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I think we all agree, especially as men.
But the point is to illustrate that people have done it, for their own motivations, their own intentions through history, and it's ahistorical to blame Islam for it. It's ahistorical, bearing in mind that it took place prior to Islam and after the advent of it. So it's in different places. And
as I said, FGM was called Tahara. I'm going to keep saying that till they remember Tahara, Right? You see, I didn't even know you all did that. I got it from Nubians. And Nubians live in Egypt. So if anybody would know the Nubian, they live in Egypt. That's why when I was among them, because I'm an anthropologist. You go where other people wouldn't go. You want to know things. I'm the kind of guy, if the Dinka people in the cattle camp, they walk naked. I'm not the kind of Muslim to say, Astaghfirullah. No, I live with these people. The Dinka walk naked in the cattle camp. I'm not going to run and start telling them Astaghfirullah. That's how they live. And I will be able to learn a fact or two. Because you're doing research. They're like, let me check out some Dinka men. I'll check out, because it's the boys normally. The girls are a little naked.
So they are covering
in the cattle
private
camp. No, in the cattle camp, South Sudan, out in the outback, no, they're completely naked. The boys. The girls have a leather petticoat here. Just a small leather, because maybe the period of the month and the rest of it. But generally, the men are but it's a sidebar. Just to say that, look, to understand something like Tahara Fir'auniya, to understand how that term came, I had to ask people questions in their culture. And luckily, they kind of accepted me in the Sudan. I have a bit of a way I can pass, and they kind of cool with me, and we talk about these things. And I was shocked to know that FGM in Nubian culture is called the Pharaonic purification. So here again is the word purification with the removal of. There is something in pre-Abrahamic faiths, some pre-Abrahamic faiths that accepted the removal of the testicles, the scrotal sac, perhaps the member, as a means to controlling desires. I'm not trying to glamorize it or glorify it. We are providing balance and saying people who are publishing articles with intent to hate, curb your desires. You're letting willful thinking run away with you. You have this tendency to make the wish farther to the thought. Don't do that. When the facts change, when you read something new, when new research has come out, then change your bloody mind. change it. You can't just say, no, I'm right. I know I'm right. I know. A lot of us are stubborn like that because it doesn't suit our agenda. But I have to, many things I learned later on. In school days, I was taught one thing. Then they invented, as I said, I always say, the genetic anthropology. I never studied that at SOAS, but they invented that. And now there are new things that I didn't learn that have caused me to change my mind. Yeah. But as for this subject, when you ask me the question, and I'll round it up again on that subject, when you ask me why some Afrocentrists have a go at Muslims, my belief is this. It's a target that is accessible. Yeah. We're right there. We live among them. We move among them. They can have a go at us and tell us, you're a lapdog to the Arab. You're an Arabian Trojan horse. Yeah. They could call us all these names. And I can stand here batting back all these comments every Sunday. It won't make a blind bit of difference to them. So I am not even speaking to them anymore. I'm speaking to the other people for them to understand my frustration this week a little bit. If I got a bit intemperate, I do apologize. But I have to say that I'm getting tired of comments without foundation. I want some foundation to the comments you're making, sound foundation, and I'm prepared to have a sensible debate with anyone if they want to come down here. And this, I really don't like debates. Discussion. Yeah, I would love discussion. Yes. Debates is about who wins and who loses. Yes, I don't play those games. That's gladiatrix. I ain't playing that. I would like, when I hear you say something that's right, I'll say, oh yeah, sorry, I didn't see it that way. Shaq taught me many things. Yeah. I learned a lot of stuff, and I understand because I grew up in the traditional community as well. My auntie Doreen was one. I know the traditional Ifa community. Yeah. So when he says, I know when I go among them, they never bothered me, and that's a fact. And so therefore, we have to say, Muslims, when we approach non-Muslims, we have to look at their fitrah. We have to approach them with good character and example. You see this bludgeoning them with the faith, hitting them with the Quran on the head. Like I said,
don't you think it's deep that we even have to mention that though? Like,
yeah, we do because I think it's no. A lot of people doing this. They want heads. They count heads because they want the barakah. So be Muslim, be Muslim. And there's no. The man just came out of The man just came out of jail. Be Muslim. Be Muslim. He just came out of jail. Be Muslim. The two of them in the mosque sitting down together. You did never follow up program for the brothers.
Yes, I've
seen
that.
You did not. Yes. So the two brothers sitting down and they're vexed because they don't know work. But they could have go check yelling back in at the time. They can't do that now. So I'm vexed. So I'm like, jihad hot. Because I want to do something. We need, that is what I say. When people point to Brother Malcolm, we point to Brother Malcolm, say what you will about the nation. They had steps program for Brother Malcolm. We didn't do. We just want the barakah because we converted somebody.
That is one thing you got.
That's all we
one
want.
thing you got to
I've
be
seen
loud
that.
about, though.
Sorry, Eesa and Danjuma and Zachariah. I've seen that where some brothers will just convert and think that's it, and the brothers that actually make them convert.
It's ours.
It's up. Where I've even seen demonstrations of it in the park where you see one of the brothers. Blatantly, you see there's a mental health issue there, innit? Yeah. Where, okay, he's took his shahada. I don't see a lot of brothers, Muslim brothers, who are around about him, pulling him to a side and saying, look, brother, I know you just recently took your shahada. I know this ain't the way of Islam that you thought. We have mannerism, like you're saying, akhlaq. Earlier we were talking about mannerism. As a Muslim myself, I was raised up on mannerisms, how you behave as a Muslim. Okay, sometimes I even tell you,
we all slip a little.
I'm not the best of them.
We slip a little.
I mainly think your mannerisms is something important. Where I'm seeing young brothers, okay, you've converted to our religion. Welcome to Fadli. That means welcome.
It's not our religion, though.
It's not enough. It's just the world religion, isn't it? Welcome to the religion. Even Eesa yourself, and I spoke to you, Zach, a couple of weeks ago about how you felt when I converted, where I had mixed messages, and I thought this way was Islam. Even you were talking about it recently, Eesa. And then when you've realised for yourself, when you learnt more about the deen and your consciousness woke up, you said, well, hang on a minute, this ain't right. This ain't right, and this ain't right. But Uncle, sorry to... When we do, like you say, Uncle, I don't believe we're living in a glass house. I believe there is some things that the Muslim nation, not Islam, the Muslim nation have done wrong onto the African continent.
There's a lot of stuff.
And there's a lot of stuff.
To the Slavs, the white people.
To us, yeah. So I think to ourselves,
Europe.
So Uncle, sometimes
Let me stop laughing. It's not a
like
joke.
you said, Uncle, yeah, sometimes don't you think we have to be like, you know what, okay, we did this.
No, we have to. Not sometimes, bro.
We have to. We have to condemn our mistakes as well. And I feel like us Muslims,
we're not serving Islam if we lie.
Yes, and
if
I feel like that's
we're
the
not
problem.
serving Islam. We become like the Zindiq. It become like we were not serving the deen.
Yeah.
We've got to say, yes, we did it, but now let's have the nuance. We, like I said, I shot the sheriff, but I did not shoot the deputy. And people are trying to push everything because it's the zeitgeist, it's to hate Islam. Let's shove everything on the Muslims. The Muslims did everything wrong. We did some wrong. But we did a lot of good too. When I talk about writing and certain things in Africa, people like to challenge me and say, well, Africans had their own form of writing too. I said, I never said they did not. What I'm saying is, Islamic writing was like an internet, like a hard currency.
Yes.
And our local writing, the Akan script, the Manding script, the Libico-Phoenician script, the Tamashek, is like a local currency. And this would connect this to the outside world. It link, and people want to be linked in. You don't want to live in a village facing inwards. Nobody live like that. You don't learn like that. And I believe we were all the better for it. I produced an article recently, and you wanted me to talk about it, about Askia Muhammad Toure II.
Yeah.
He was the Songhai, the guy with the term, the Songhai Emperor, who assumed the throne of the Songhai Empire. And his Hajj was almost as impressive as Mansa Musa's. You know, he was large in the land.
What was the difference in the time of their lives?
He was about 1500. Mansa Musa was about 100 years earlier.
Okay.
Mansa Musa was before him.
Right.
And Mansa Musa was Mali. He was from the follow-up empire, which was so big, it extended into Tuareg country in Niger, Chad actually, and on the other end the Atlantic. That's how big it was. Now that empire, had that empire joined with the Moroccans and then the Ottoman Turks, because the Ottomans were controlling the eastern Mediterranean at the time. Morocco was under the Moulay Mansour, I think was his name. Now if we three had joined up, we would have been able to take on the West. Instead, the Moroccans attacked Songhai.
Right.
That's what happened.
Were they the initial aggressors?
Yes, what happened is the Moroccans fought a battle, I think it's called Ksar Kabir. People can Google because I didn't prepare this in my mind even. The Moroccans fought the Portuguese at a battle called Ksar Kabir and lost badly. They lost heavily. And the Sultan of Morocco wanted Queen Elizabeth, the first Queen Elizabeth, not the modern Queen. She hasn't been living that long, right? He wanted it. You know David Icke, reptile people. I'm continuing to read David Icke on the reptiles, you know. Shapeshifters, it's ridiculous. I used to buy the books, man. I was so damn foolish. I made David Icke rich. I got about 3 of David Icke books.
It's David Icke who came up with the reptile.
Yeah, the reptile shape. The queen is a shape. No, but the Sultan of Morocco, he wanted to have an alliance, and I think he wanted to marry Queen Elizabeth I. But he wanted also to do a trade in saltpeter, which is what you use to make your gunpowder, your explosives.
Okay.
Saltpeter for guns. She had manufactured guns already, and he had the saltpeter necessary for the manufacture of gunpowder. Now, she refused him. I understand the relationship was like, I don't really want a trading relationship. I want to get with you. I don't think she was like, no, Negro. Something like that. And now he realizes he needs help, because he just lost a terrible battle against the Portuguese. I'm not sure if that was a time when Ceuta and Melilla in Morocco became European possessions. You know, you have 2 cities belonging to Spain. So that if people are running over the Sahara, they get in to Ceuta or Melilla, they're in Europe. So I don't know if that's when the Moroccan soldier, but he lost badly at the Battle of Ksar Kabir. And in order, he said, you know something, I need money, I need reinforcements. There's gold to the south. There is gold to the south. And what he did, they got a eunuch, a Spanish eunuch, Judar Pasha, a Spanish eunuch. See that? He not doing Islam now. A Spanish eunuch who led the troops of the Moroccan army across the Sahara, and they destroyed Songhai. And to me, that was a tragedy.
So that's deep. So you have a Muslim army from the north coming down and invading the south as well for resources or some sort of potential.
But they had guns. The Moroccans had guns. They had heavy artillery. We didn't have that. Well, the other Muslims didn't have that. So what happened is they lost. They tried a rearguard action, but the Moroccans left a battalion called the Arma. Arma, you know, Rami. Arma meaning like
yeah,
those,
sure,
yes. So they left a battalion of them, and they were, but they couldn't control the area. So then the Fulani piled in and destroyed Timbuktu. Then the Tuareg came in. The place was chaotic. Many people ran to the coast. Bam! The white man picked them up as slaves. So at that time, the slavery was on the beginning, on the transatlantic slavery was on the begin. So they happened on the coast.
So this disillusion of one ummah can be seen in Africa as it's never really worked from
an African point of view.
Historically speaking, like, we
It
have
was tragic.
even in terms of expansion of the Songhai and the Mali, including the Fulani and the like.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, what
Within ourselves-
central government collapsed with the Moroccan destruction of Timbuktu. Remember, when you take the Songhai Empire, it was so large that it swallowed up the preceding empire of Mali. So Mali was already big, but Songhai was bigger. It was the biggest of the three. Now the capital of Songhai was Gao. The capital was called Gao. But the spiritual capital, famous since the time of the Mansas, was Timbuktu. So if you imagine Gao to be like London, Timbuktu would be like Canterbury. Or if you imagine Gao to be like Riyadh, Timbuktu would be like Makkah or Medina. It's something like this, in that sort of comparison. So Timbuktu had a lot of spiritual significance for the Songhai, even though they were not from there. They captured it after they conquered Mali. But the city was known for great scholars, Mahmoud Kati, Abdurrahman Asadi, Ahmad Baba, great scholars that I would like Hakim, Al-Qaeda in the Maghrib, and Ansaruddin, who were burning books there. They need to know this before you start kicking down doors of libraries and attempting to burn books. So what I'm saying is, when you look at the heights to which the civilization had reached, I believe Songhai could have brought stability and order to that whole West African area. The problem is they didn't have firearms. The kind of firepower that the Moroccans came with, they did not possess it. If they had this, I think that they would have been capable of resisting or even defeating the Moroccans.
So
but
were we sleeping then? Were
Well,
they
no,
sleeping? Did they not have like a vested interest or an ambition in trying to consolidate?
Well, I'll tell you what I think. I think the same argument I use with the Pan-Africanists or the Afrocentrists, I will use with you. I think really human beings can't think beyond a certain size. I don't believe there was a concept of Afrocentrism back then, and the concept of Pan-Islamism was not as developed. That idea that we are all. After the Umayyad collapse and then the Abbasid and 1258, the Mongols and all that idea had collapsed. So the whole idea of Pan-Islamism, if Pan-Africanism didn't exist and Pan-Islamism was a forgotten dream. That's how I see it. It was just, a lot of these were empires. They were not caliphates. Mali was an empire. Songhai wasn't. They were not caliphates. And neither was the Moroccan calling it a caliphate. He wasn't pretending to be a caliph either. They were just kings and power, and they were Muslims, and he needed gold. He had saltpeter, which was good for making explosive. He wanted to trade that to Queen Elizabeth, perhaps for her hand, as well as for actually guns to fight with. And she rebuffed him, and he therefore said, something, I need to make an all-out push for that gold down in Songhai. I need to make a push for that. Of course, we know that Songhai was a middleman empire. The gold was not found. Actually, it was found down in your area, further down into... There was some gold in what you call Bondu, at the junction of the Senegal and the Falemé rivers in Bondu. Eastern Senegal, Western Mali. But the majority of the gold came from what is called the Gold Coast today. And they would trade with the peoples of the forest and bring the gold to places like Timbuktu and Jenne and Gao, and that would be traded across the Sahara. The Tuareg would do that because they have the camels, that part of the trade. And that's another thing I was saying to people. If you are trying to enslave large numbers of blacks on a ship, I see it as possible. But you're trying to walk, how many millions they exaggerated to say that were taken, and half of them castrated. You think that is making economic sense? It's not. So I am of the opinion that because Shaq brother, young man, that asked me a good question last week. He said, well, where are all these Africans in the Middle East who were enslaved? And I said, well, brother Shaq, perhaps I'm thinking the best of these people But I want to believe that the numbers are exaggerated. The amount of people, so that partly accounts for the disappearance of blacks in the in the Middle East, the Levant and North Africa and the Arabian Peninsula. That perhaps accounts for the lack. I said there's another thing. We know that the Arabs would have no qualms. And the Portuguese, we have a joke about the Portuguese too. They say the Portuguese and the Spanish are only racist from the waist up. You know, Arabs are like that. Arabs like black women. Arabs like women. They like women. And what I like about them, and yeah, my Afrocentrist brothers gonna hate me now, Arabs acknowledge their children. They acknowledge their males in particular. That is my child. I don't care if the mother is Filipino. I don't care if the mother is from Angola. That's my child. That's my, yeah, they do.
Well, back in the day, I wrote these ones.
No, always. Once you have the lineage, the blood, the lineage, Al-Bahari is Al-Bahari, always.
But you might
Once
get
you have the
gunned,
lineage.
but you're still Arab.
Yeah. Now,
They might gun your skin color.
yeah,
but
they go over the,
Listen, you're not going to be fully accepted
I know,
into
remember,
the. If
but let
you're
me give-
half and
wait a
you're,
minute.
your mom's black.
But let me give you an example.
Yeah,
There could be conniptions. Let me give you an example. You must remember the name because I lost it and I didn't research it. When Amr ibn al-As, his troops invaded Egypt, and there were only 4,000 men. They conquered a whole big country with only 4,000 men. So you know there was a lot of collaboration with the people who said this seems to make more theological sense. There were a lot of the Arians and the Athanasian creeds. They were confused as to which is the true way. And he came and said, "Burn that, one book, one God, one prophet." And people believed. Now one brother
One of the generals.
was sent, the name.
I forgot the name, but he
He
said he was
was
black
sent-
in skin.
Yes!
And it was.
What was the bishop's name and what was his name?
I forgot.
The bishop said, "Take him away!"
Yeah,
Take
how
it away.
could you bring a black man in my
Yeah,
presence?
yes,
type
yes.
thing.
Now, you know that under transatlantic slavery, no black man ain't getting that position during the time of slavery. So what I must say is this, perhaps if that guy's dad were an Arab, or even if he's not an Arab, there was, during the Arab times, scope for upward mobility. Either that, or we may surmise, and it is possible for us to do it, that the Arabs were generally at the time a darker shade of color than they are today. I'm not saying they were absolute Negroes in inverted commas, but I'm going to say that when they met the Berbers were a whiter, in general, a whiter skinned people than the Arabs who conquered them. I would say that, yes. And if you look at the guy, what's the guy's name who spoke to the bishop? The bishop was, what?
I remember
I can't remember the bishop's name.
said basically it was
Yeah.
sent back to the Khalif and it said we've got thousands of people who are just as
Exactly.
dark as you, ready to come down to your doorstep.
Yeah. So you see, these are some of the things. When people say, where did all these African slaves disappear to in the Middle East? And they say, well, because Arabs are so dark, they may have interbred with their slaves. That is a point. There is that. But what about if, and this is hard for me to untease, what about if the Arabs were already darker in the first place?
They were already the same
Yeah,
kind
already,
of human.
yeah. So would that not mean like English taking Irish slaves?
Yeah.
If people then say, where are all the O'Briens and the O'Connellys? Where are they? And you say, well, we can't tell because their fathers are English, their mothers are Irish. How can we tell? You see, because they're all white. So it's a difficult. What I do know is the numbers of black people, like pure blacks, are not so much in the Middle East as to say that there was a massive slave trade. Perhaps the only need for a big slave trade was during the Zenj period, the draining of the salt marshes of Basra, and one or two other. I believe there were spikes. There were spikes when they called for a large importation of slaves, but it wasn't an ongoing. With transatlantic slavery, it was like a permanent spike.
I mean, you still got you still got in places like Oman and Yemen. You still got what they call mawalats, that freed manumitted slaves or servants who have retained the bond with their former slave
Like
masters.
Haratin in Mauritania.
Haratin,
Like the
right.
Haratin in Mauritania.
So they do end up marrying, and they're not as rosy as I'm saying, because they still have those
I've been to
sort of
Mauritania, so I've
those
seen it.
xenophobic tendencies.
Okay.
But there is a significant amount of what I would describe as unambiguously looking Africans, in the Arabian Peninsula, still there, present. They've learnt the language, they've got the children, and
Been
they've
assimilated, basically.
Right, they've
assimilated.
But what Shaq was saying last week, and he's got a point, he was saying this, he was saying, but you see, that was a clever trick. He wasn't saying it like this, but I'm putting it like this. It's okay, not Shaq, let's say what Afrocentrists would say. It's a clever trick to assimilate black people. And I would say, well, as long as it's done in a way where you are acknowledging my child, I don't see much, I'm sorry, I don't see much wrong with that. I'm sorry. If I
an
keep that
extent,
child
Uncle,
like Chicken
maybe,
George,
yeah.
Chicken George, Roots, he was a possession. Chicken George, because
Roots,
he could get sold. Right? That's different. In Arab slavery, you didn't have that. You can't just take somebody and say, you and my son, I'm going to sell your ass. That didn't happen. So there is a difference.
And
are we talking
I'm not
biased
saying,
way
I'm
because
not
we are
saying
Muslims?
for the camera, slavery is not a good thing.
No, but are we talking biased because we are Muslims? That's what
No,
Biased
I'm
to-
talking,
biased to-
let me
wait,
think
wait,
about
biased-
that.
we're trying to
Biased to what, though?
sugarcoat. I'm trying to say, are we sugarcoating?
Apologizing.
Well, I'm not anyway. Yeah, you know my stance on that anyway. Yeah?
So what do you feel about what I've said?
No, Uncle, there's
Tell me,
bits
what do you
to it,
think
but
about
I
what
feel
I
like, are we sugarcoating?
Sugarcoating would be to say that it didn't exist, yeah.
No, what I'm saying, where we speak about the Atlantic slave trade, and we demonize that more. What I'm saying, well, there is something like, what I'm trying to say, look, there is white supremacy, but there is something else as worse. But because they're fellow Muslims with us,
but is that the case? Khalid, is that the case though?
Turn a blind eye because the person says Allahu Akbar with you.
I don't like,
and that's the thing I don't.
Bro,
that's what
personally
gets on my
speaking,
nerves.
Khalid, I don't like to
There's
say.
racism in the world. There's anti-blackness.
There's very anti-blackness.
Khalid, my thing is, yeah.
Right now in 2020, like I say, sorry, Eesa, to cut you off, yeah. Like I say, Uncle, I came back over 18. Like you say, you went to 17 African countries. I went to 5. I'm catching you up. Don't watch that, Uncle.
Mashallah.
Inshallah, I'm
You're gonna
catching
pass
you
me
up.
soon.
Inshallah, Eesa. So what I'm saying, I've experienced it. I've seen it. Where I'm coming from, Uncle, is shouldn't we say that is as detrimental to the black and Africans? Because I feel like because we're Muslims, we give it more of a, it's my fellow Muslim brother. He says salam alaikum.
Yeah. I was just
I
gonna say,
fast
for
with
me-
him, but he's alright. He's done it to me. He's still doing it. And we don't call it out.
I hear you.
And then when we do call
I
it
hear
out,
that.
astaghfirullah, what's wrong with you, brother? You're supposed to, your brother's shamed.
I hear that.
Now that pisses me off.
Of course.
I'm not gonna lie
But
to
none
you.
of us here are doing that though. That's the one thing. Man.
It comes
And-
across
and-
sometimes.
Okay,
It does.
To be
tell you what,
honest,
I've
seen it
bro,
does.
I'm just saying, yeah.
I feel like
Reality is
people say
reality.
I do that,
Just
I hear that.
reality is reality.
Yeah,
Look,
sorry, Uncle.
slavery, yeah, in all of its forms, anyone that goes underneath, that becomes under bondage, yeah, it's not rosy. It's not rosy to be a slave. But at the same time, to estimate or to say that the transatlantic slave trade, is as detrimental, as what I don't.
The Arab
It's not
slave
even.
trade is.
We're not even because.
it's still going on
with
now.
Arab slave trade, if we're talking about Islam, that's after a certain
I'm
time.
not talking about Islam. Let's put Islam there for a second.
So what are we talking? Right. So
saying
then,
the slave
so then
trade
if it's
right
not
now-
about Islam, then what am I defending?
I don't know. I'm just
That's-
saying.
that's the whole point.
Are you defending Islam? What I'm trying to say
Okay.
where.
Let me
What I'm
give-
trying to say,
yeah.
I think
is
it's
what
because I
Islam trying to
said.
say.
No, I think it's because I said in Islamic slavery, inverted commas.
I feel like we can't split the two up. Sorry, Uncle.
Let me see if
no,
I
go
can.
ahead.
No, I'm trying to unpack what you're saying and you make a lot of sense. I think it's because I said, and I don't want to give the wrong impression, so it's good that you brought this in. I said in Islamic slavery, the child is the child of the father.
Yes.
And that mother, in those days, they used to manumit the mother automatically. The mother, even if she was a Jariya, she would become free because that child is the child of a free man, of an Arab, or a Muslim man. And that used to happen in. I gave the contrast of Chicken George.
Yes,
Your chattel. You were chattel. Chattel means cattle.
Yeah.
Right. What happened in transatlantic slavery is a science of I'm not inventing a word now. A science of racial inferiorization came out of it, where the Negro was closer to monkey than to man. A science of skulls, phrenology, was developed, showing the progression of races to whiteness.
Yes.
And the white man, of course, should be man.
Yes.
And therefore, what happened in transatlantic slavery, racism took a separate life of its own. It became a thing of it that is with black people in the West to this day. All right, let me now give the dark side of the Arab one too. The problem is this for the Afrocentrists.
Yeah.
As Afrocentrists, we might want to tell people in Cuba, black people, rise up with Malcolm X.
Yeah.
People in Brazil, rise up. They listen to us, they don't speak English, they may get the books in Portuguese and Spanish.
Yeah.
When we go to the Arabs, you know, Malak, Inter Malak, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
He doesn't understand, he black, he doesn't understand that
thank
consciousness. Well, let me learn,
No,
because if you cut me there, that's bad. Listen to this, he doesn't get that consciousness because he did not have a problem that gave cause for civil rights movements. It never got to the situation. There is, with the Arab world, I tell you what, you get a lot of casual racism. You add Sa'akam. Sa'akam, they mean to say your skin is black. You're getting let me, I can't hear your question. Let me try to answer your question. I'm trying to say there's a difference in the consciousness level in the Arab world. In terms of
acceptable.
Because
People are dumbed down because of
I
he says
think
salam alaikum
no,
and
it's
it's
the
all good.
there's that.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
But
the
wait,
fact.
but wait a minute,
He
wait a
says salam
minute.
alaikum.
He brought back Islam into it, which is
Yeah.
why I was asking.
Yeah, but wait a minute. It's not only that.
I'm not saying this is not saying
Because
Muslims.
the
I'm
slavery.
saying if you say Muslims, the bond between Muslims is Islam. That's the bond. So it's not that. What I'm trying to say to you is the fact that what Sheikh Danjuma has mentioned has got nothing to do with the fact that even prior to the advent of Islam, Arabs still had a system of mukataba where a slave can work and free himself. Not only does he work and free himself, but he becomes Mawla, he becomes Mawali. That means he inherits, he becomes almost as if a blood brother with rights. We don't have that
in Oman today.
we don't have that in the transatlantic slave trade. You can't dismiss that point. I'm not saying, for me personally, I can understand, like it's a human thing. Being in bondage is not nice. But to say that they're both the same thing.
Nah, but my angles is, do you know what I'm coming from?
I
We're
wanna
seeing
make-
it
I
as
wanna-
Muslims. As Muslim, I'm saying
I
as
get
a
you, but
non-black Muslim
let
person.
me hit you with
You
another
can't really hit them
brother
up with these
Khalid.
arguments,
Brother
something.
Khalid,
You
the
get me?
Arabs. Let me show you something. Let me show you like a sliding scale, because we put the Europeans on one side, transatlantic slavery. We put the Arabs on the other, trans-Saharan slavery. Now let me show you a sliding scale in between them. Just now I mentioned the Portuguese and the Spanish. Remember, I said to you the joke about the Spanish and Portuguese.
They're not racist halfway
They're
down.
only racist from the waist up.
Yeah.
And that is evident in many of the countries in Latin America.
America,
The different colors of shade from, and even the white ain't really white. He's light all right, but he's not quite white. You know this. Now, check it out. They never had an industrial revolution. A proper industrial revolution, the Portuguese and the Spanish. Neither did the Muslim world. For a short time, Muhammad Ali Pasha in Egypt experimented with it. It was short-lived because he couldn't easily free himself of the Ottoman Sultan, and then the British and the French interfered in Egypt.
they do.
So paid to that. So let me tell you this: the kind of labor you will be doing as a Muslim slave was not mechanized labor as in transatlantic slavery. There was nothing that gave rise to an
debatable, Uncle.
No, I'm telling you. I said there are spikes. Yes, you had Basra. You had spikes. You had Basra.
Bring the evidence where.
No, but I'm giving him one. There was Basra. Fia, Kanvi, there was Basra. Yes, you had a whole bunch of black people and others. They weren't just black, working, draining the salt marshes of Basra. But by and large, no massive works took place in the Arab world that warranted that kind of labor. And there wasn't the kind of technical labor, manual labor division in the white world where you can say, some slaves, they wall off who can write, they can become clerical. But the other slaves who have no literacy, they are nothing to us. And so on. Actually, the wall off and the wall just start the problems in the
What about
Caribbean.
Soman?
What
What about the fact that part of the slave trade route, this so-called Arab slave trade route, went through Somal?
Can I explain something? Can I explain?
Yeah,
After you finish.
Also, we just from little reading, that the Somali tribes did keep Bantu slaves in that
Certain
part.
Somali tribes.
And what did the work? Because I'm honing in on the
Shabelle
work.
area?
Yeah.
What was the work that they got them to do?
Usually farming.
Cultivation.
and farming.
Right.
But can I
So
explain
hard
something?
labor.
Can I explain something?
Yeah, good.
My type of Somali, I'm a nomad, my brother.
No, just
There's-
check- I was
but
being general.
no.
Yeah,
But
go on, yeah.
there's Somalis that claim to be ethno-Somalis that lived on the sea coast, that have ties to Oman, the Eastern.
Yeah, we see this on the Facebook all the time.
No, but with the eastern coast of the Swahili coast of regional.
They're from Houd.
I'm from Houd, man. I'm from, you know I'm from Eesa. I'm from more nomadic. More of
I know there's this little internal struggle.
So there's people that were in the coast. I'm way up there, so with that explains.
I see.
Because I'm not from that side of Somalia. I'm from the other side of Somalia. You get what I'm coming from? I'm from the north, where we had never had that type of where it's going that way.
Yeah.
You get what I'm coming from? Oman, Somalia, bits of Mogadishu. I'm not from Mogadishu. All the way down to Zanzibar and all of that. So that kind of explains that type of slavery where a lot of us all been labelled underneath this where some of us haven't.
Because I hear you, because we're talking about the general so much. But my point was to say, it's not as black and white as it's Arabs, and we're making an excuse for Arabs.
No, but I mentioned the Portuguese and the Spanish because I'm saying there's an illusion.
You know
there's a sliding scale.
No, my angle.
Are you trying to refer to Libya?
No, he's not talking about
Yeah,
that.
listen, like I was saying, bro, what I'm talking about is, I'm talking about in, like, if I'm saying, I'm saying, like, I don't know, listen, I'm trying to talk about, basically, if I'm sitting on a table with Afrocentric people, and they tell me, whoa, what about that slave trade, Kate? I can't be sitting there honestly and be
But have we given you, have we said anything?
You have,
no,
but
have
I'm saying
have we
sometimes
said
as
anything that is
Muslims,
wrong?
should we sugarcoat and just say, you know what, certain things, there
I
is
would
certain
like to
things
correct
in the Islam,
myself.
in the world
I'm
that
saying
was
in
wrong.
general, forget your Islam. If someone puts it to you as an African,
As a fellow African,
as an
from West
African,
Africa or someone from Congo tells me,
was eunuchry, was castration, was forcing people into severe labour, taking away their rights. Was that right? You got to ban that straight away, bruv. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. That's the whole point. But if you start now, if that person starts saying, well, you're just as bad as the Nazi down the road who believes and subscribes to eugenics and that black people are inferior and that's what led them to enslave you, that's a whole different conversation and a whole other ball game. And you can't put us in the same, I don't believe, that you can put, the mentality of the people that were dealing in transatlantic slavery with the same mentality as the people who indulge in this
Ship
Arab
called
slave
the
trade.
good ship Jesus, a slave ship called the good ship Jesus, funded by Queen Elizabeth I.
A further point that elucidates to that is the fact that they enslaved their own. The fact that you had Arab slaves, Persian slaves, if they came into contact with Turkish, Romans, Byzantine,
Slavs.
everywhere. Look at what they did in Armenia and certain places where they.
So what you need to do is step.
in a fellow Africa.
Yeah.
Because if I start doing
but
this
I
whole,
know what.
It's a whole.
It's a question. Uncle, sorry, I know, Uncle, you're getting frustrated.
No, I'm not getting
having a
frustrated.
conversation. We're not having a debate, remember? We're having a conversation.
Of course, well, I don't debate.
You don't
What
debate,
I'm saying is, there is the Arab, let me tell you, I saw this in Sudan and in Mauritania too. Even though these people are like Jaria, when it's eating time, they sit with them and they eat. With Arab slavery, I've seen it enacted, feed them from what you eat and clothe them from what you wear. Why? Because the difference in economic status between the slave and the slave master was not high. They ate pretty much the same. I'm not going to say they were in the same bed, unless she hot. She find them. But generally speaking, well, you know, a Muslim man, we got hot blood. You know us, what we like. But the Portuguese and the Spanish, who similarly did not have an industrial revolution, so didn't have this pretty airs and graces. They didn't have that too. You notice in Brazil and in Cuba, the amount of racial intermixture that went on there. So I'm trying to say, when I do say transatlantic one side, Muslim slavery the other side, there are nuances in between. But the Industrial Revolution to me, which made the white man really think, can you imagine? The British invented the underground. The Bakerloo line, I think, was the first one.
Yeah.
Right? Listen, give them props. The Victorian era, the British invented the English, not the British, because half of them were Scots. In fact, the majority of the inventors were Scots. They did some mad inventions.
And Irish.
Seriously. Well,
Come
yeah.
to think of it, I can't really
it's
think of
Britain,
many
it's not
British-
England.
They can't think of many English names when it comes to.
Macadam, all these people, you know, they did. So let me tell you, they got a sense of Britannia rules the waves and everybody else is inferior.
Britannia.
Now think about it. In the Muslim world, we maybe he would have reached that height if the Mongols hadn't destroyed Baghdad in 1258. But we know the rest is history. We collapsed and we got knocked down. Okay, we got up again with the Ottoman Turks. We did get up again with the Ottoman Turks. What happened with the Ottomans? They refused to embrace, same technology I'm talking about, the printing press. They refused to embrace the modern world, and they suffered for it. We Muslims suffered for it.
Okay.
So we gotta say, what I'm trying to say is this: the Muslims' attitude to slaves is different because they did not have the airs and graces of people who had entered the industrial era. I think that is, so what you find if you look in the Muslim, I know you wanted to bring it up to that, the young brother alluded to, you wanted to bring it up to date about modern, like what's happening in Libya and so on.
Not really.
Oh, I thought I heard you say, okay.
But that is poignant and then it's relevant. Yeah.
Because if a lot of highly sub-Saharan people are in sort of dire situations, and as Muslims, there's Muslims, there's Christians, there's this, and this is happening in 2020. In the continent, I'm saying, I know. With the we're gonna do this.
Sorry to be that guy to just say one point. Just ask something, or just to ask you something.
Danjuma, sorry.
See, when you say modern world, can I just remind the people or ask people what they think about this point? As the modern world, with not just like clothing, not just music, not just like you said, technology, not just the way we see each other, and not just the way we understand language. Isn't what we consider modern not only changing within like every effing 10 years, not only every 5 years, but also every 50 years and every 500 years? And let's be honest, because as well as the Muslim world and the Christian world, not everyone else can say over 500 million years, way plus, you know what I mean, and trillion, and you can times them all and we will be there always. Hasn't the term modern, sorry.
You mean like where do we set the clock?
No, it's like,
where do we set the
how
clock
we
to
see
say this is the
modern,
modern
right?
era?
For example, 10 years ago, was you wearing the same clothes, listening to the same music, talking to the same people, and what you would consider modern? If I asked every single one of you what was modern 5 years ago, was it the same?
So I would say recent history, isn't it?
Well, I think maybe the question he's asking is, some people, the European would rightly say the modern age started with the Industrial Revolution, because that's his thing. So he would say that. He wouldn't go back to say, well, in ancient Kemet, they've done things not as advanced as modern industrial era, but they've done things. So they, Africans, say we can set the clock to start the modern age at the time of the pharaohs. We can do that. What I do believe is this: we are living in a period now called the Anthropocene era, and in this period, as opposed to the earlier times, we are now more in a position to change the world than be changed by the world. History came about as, we have a saying, geography is the mother of history. Geography made us the humans we are. That's why some of us are black, some of us are white, some have straight hair. Geography made us the humans we are. However, we are in a state in the world today where we are changing geography faster than geography is changing us. That is referred to as the Anthropocene era. You may say that started with Neolithic farming. Some people go back as far as Neolithic farming. Some say it started with the invention of the wheel. The moment the humans invented the wheel, the mobility that it gave them.
At the moment they discovered for themselves.
Some say it started with the invention of the printing press. That, instead of having to let one man read something, everybody got a book now.
Because they printed the Bible.
The Bible and all that. You know what? They did better than we Muslims did. We said, nah, this thing, man, the Quran is too sacred. It should be written by hand. Hand. But
I'll tell you why.
No, let me finish.
I'll tell you why.
My bad, bro. You wait. I see a side legged. I see a side legged.
I hate people that jump in and try to take over the conversation.
You're good. One thing is, I don't know where we set the clock to say this is the modern age. Some say the invention of the wheel, some say Neolithic farming, some say the printing press, some say the industrial age. All of these are valid areas where you can say, yes, this is, but I do believe right now we are adversely impacting the environment, and in that sense, it is a new step in the modern, it's a new turning point in the modern age where geography isn't shaping us, we're shaping it, and for the worse. And that's something we need to think about.
Should we hit that up next week? Obviously,
perhaps we could hit that next week, because
and it had to be the Bible that was printed first, and that we printed first
Tyndale?
for people, because like it was one of the ones that was able to be given for free to the people without kind of question and argument. You know what I mean? Like, no offense, but if they were even to do it today, it is actually considered like against faith to even be given out. Like technically, obviously, it's kind of be looked as ludicrous where we are, but to give out the Quran for free. And even back then, it was the Bible. So it would be like, if we met a Muslim, like let's pretend like I'm not someone that protects and looks after and supports all faiths.
Yeah.
If I like, let's say that you was a Muslim that I met, and you was in a place literally like today, and like, I would say, yo, if you was the one that would have to decide to give out the sacred Quran, or a Christian like me would come up and say, we know not to give out the Quran, but we've got the Bible and we need to give it out because like the queen of these countries, because we even as Muslims, we the richer ones that will be allowed to travel, and that's something that our people couldn't even do back in the day and still can't even do today. So like the Bible would have been printed and given to people that weren't even able to afford, like not like it would be like a newspaper where everyone could afford it back then, and everyone could get it. Back then people wouldn't have been able to get even a Bible. That would have been one of the reasons that people were able to even get even a Bible, and they would have been grateful from that day on. Thousands of people still giving thanks to that. That's why they call it Christian states. But the thing I wanted to say to you is what is considered modern, man. Because you guys would say it's changing, because you was making a great point about it changing with the modern times. But modern changes for these people because their attention span every like even 2 hours, unfortunately, every 2 months, 2 years.
You want me to be honest?
Go on, brother.
You took the conversation to Mexico.
Shit.
I'm back,
Sorry,
man.
I just
I'm
wanted.
sorry.
I didn't want to ask my brother.
Oh, no.
It's your discussion.
I don't
you
know
guys
where
are
I
building.
am now.
So again, yes, sorry, brother. But when you watch it back,
modern.
you clock what I
Yeah,
say.
yeah, I'll
Anyway,
pull up modern
get back to
remote.
what you were saying, but my brother, what you were saying is so great, and every time you speak, keep on speaking. It's so
Barakallah fiik.
Yeah, come on.
But I
Thank
hate
you
when
very
people
much.
interrupt you.
No, that's
No,
good. No, I know the difference between good energy and vampirism.
No.
There's such a thing.
because
This
we're
ain't
around them.
vampirism. I know vampirism.
I don't think our people back home watch this, so they know straight away. As soon as
Look,
we're around
I believe
them,
we
it's
have
them,
to.
but
You
I'm always
see
good
what you
energy
did there?
people.
I'm happy because sometimes we need a break in transmission and to get back. But we also need people to learn one new fact whenever they come to our discussion. So you see, you introduced the subject I hadn't thought about properly, but then I realized that idea of modernity is relative. It's relative to whatever culture you're talking about. I know we live in a global world, and therefore most people would say the most technologically advanced societies are Germany, America, Japan, Korea. These are the modern societies. But that's one view, and then you.
I want to touch him up.
You know,
I can
so,
hear him.
all right.
I can hear him in the back.
Y'all
I want to
wanna-
touch him up.
Let me.
I'm
They
gonna
want
stand
to
there,
get into something else. Y'all getting on something. Go on, get. Y'all gonna hit something else.
No. I just heard a brother in the back, and he came in a bit abrupt about the Libya thing, as if he was opposing it.
Or the young brother.
Yeah. So the Libya thing, again, that's a deep thing as well. But what I would question is, is it a blank? Can we just have?
Let's have an honest
Is it
one.
responsible to just say, there's slave markets in Libya?
No.
Without mentioning
where I'm coming
maybe the
from.
motivation behind it,
Where I'm
what
coming
the
from, sorry.
views of the people are,
Yeah.
like what they actually go through. Is it actually a slave market? Is it people actually coming there saying, yeah, I'll take free, taking them back to the house?
No.
Or is it issues to do with people trying to migrate
migrate
into Europe?
people's because there's a route, obviously the government ever fell off. The angles I'm coming from with that, my nation, it's making it's ravishing the youth. You get where I'm coming from? You're sending money back home. You don't even know where the kid is. Next minute, he's organised money. Boom, he's out in the Sahara, crossing Libya, girls, guys. So it's causing even the Ghanaian president was recently talking to about it with the French president Francois Macron.
That's actually a conversation you just put up about the servitude of West Africans and Sub-Saharan Africans in general in the Arab world as well.
So, as he was talking about, he was like, we need to create more opportunities to keep our youth in, so we don't. This Libya thing doesn't happen, so it doesn't create with the Calais problem as well, the big refugee camp in Calais with the Sangat. So I'm trying to all link it up where, okay, obviously Gaddafi fell, the brutal regime happened where people are, we call it a muqafe, where all of a sudden your child's here, 1 minute in Hargeisa with you, actually next minute later you're sending him. If you Sahara at the desert, he's in a cage, or she gets the phone call, we want $1,000 or we're killing him, or killing her. Plus, there's been a lot of rape, a lot of males, females of Sub-Sahara have been raped in these cages. And this is true.
I hear they're harvesting
I don't have a
organs.
rebuttal for that. I don't have a rebuttal for that.
This is
Khalid,
true.
I hear they're harvesting organs as well.
Harvesting organs. This is
I
something
don't know if
detrimental.
Hundreds.
So we as Muslims, from a certain whatever, have to call this out, my brothers.
100.
And I feel like with the Muslim Ummah there's certain things that we shy away from. And I do not understand that.
I don't believe Muslims have shied away with this issue.
No.
At least black Muslims, African Muslims.
Yes, where it's pushed to a side. You get where I'm coming from, where and it's the whole
Do
issue
you
again,
have the
Uncle.
Islam channel? Does it talk about it? I don't get the Islam channel anymore.
No,
Uncle, I don't even watch. I mean, we do our
they're
own.
too busy with Burma and Philistine.
This is what I've noticed.
So this is the problem that we face as well when we try to highlight these issues. Where this is an issue, and I feel like it's been pushed to our back. Well,
They
come
put it on
on,
the back burner, yeah.
They put us on a back burner, but it's just not even. It's affecting a lot, and it's sad. And it's where okay, we do a demonstration, we forget about it. There's actually people in cages right now that need our help. That's
Bro.
our brothers and sisters, ain't they?
But gee, what about And if it sounds like I'm shifting blame, let me know. But where are the African leaders, bro?
There's
African leaders that have military power, they have arms. How are they not? Making people like this Haftar guy, who's supposed to be the person who's supposed to be like uniting the place and making the place, whatever. Or there's this. How are they not? How is the UN not assessing the situation and saying, you lot better sort this stuff out now?
Yeah.
Not to mention, Italy's part of this whole thing.
Yeah, come on.
Because Italy has an interest in these people, detaining people so they don't get into their... So, what are the leaders, what are the African leaders they're doing in terms of that? People that actually have power. And what can we, if, let's say they're not going to do anything, what can we actually do? 'Cause I'm all ears, brother. I'll help however I can.
I know.
But
we need more discussions on this subject.
it's hard. Sometimes, look, for me, I'm not gonna lie, to a certain extent, because of all the tragedies in the Muslim world, sometimes, I have to consciously turn a blind eye. Why? 'Cause if I don't, I'm gonna go nuts, Khalid.
Yeah, I understand that. That's why, the other week,
I'm gonna be, my mental state.
a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about where an uncle, you were kind of sticking on me saying, well, you have to give moral support. Uncle, it's not like I don't give moral support. Uncle, I've been doing this for years, and a lot of the black Muslim Ummah started to realize, well, hang on, when it's our problems, no one screams for our problems. No one's even mentioning. It's like, how dare you speak about your problems? Your problems do not exist. Your problems are not as crucial or as important. But if we're one ummah, like we say, as this one ummah that we're striving to, like you said, we're aspirating to what this one ummah, where only certain bits of the ummah, and this it pisses me off.
So then we fix our bit.
We fix our bit, but are we entitled to? But the minute you start speaking about it, we get
racist.
Don't even dare. Oh no, it doesn't exist. You're going mad.
I'm too old for that to
Like I
bother
said, I don't even
But
fucking
it's real.
That's why I don't even talk to certain
It's
people.
real. Even
You get
on
me?
the
They won't
Facebook
fathom.
the other day, it took everything in me to correct people. But I've realised some people are woefully ignorant, and some people are just ignorant.
Yeah.
They don't know. So when one of the sisters on my Facebook sort of made a dua, a supplication, and she just mentioned, may Allah help the brothers in like Syria and Palestine, Kashmir, and then in bulk and Africa.
Yeah.
And I said to the sister,
Africa is not a country.
I said to the
Africa is not a
sister,
country.
I know she wasn't mentioning it as a country, but what I knew of that is that she doesn't even know of the different plights of African Muslims.
And the different
she hasn't
problems
even
we
looked she hasn't even looked that far.
That's what I'm
so
trying to
she
say.
just consolidated the whole Africa as if
That's what I'm
it's
saying.
one language, one people,
So
whatever.
like they don't know the problems that we have in Somalia is different from the problems in the
Right.
Mauritania, the problems in this place, the problems in African
Which
Central.
is why one time I said on the camera, and someone said, "No, don't say it." And I say it for real. When you go to Tarawih and you're gonna hear it which Ramadan's like 12, 11 weeks away. Yeah. When you stand for Tahajjud, you're gonna hear the Imam saying, may Allah help the Muslims in Philistine. And then he will resign Africa to fi kulli makan and Muslims in every other place.
And that's true.
This is symptomatic of the Muslim ignorance.
We any other business.
Like I said, Eesa, remember a couple of weeks ago when I was saying, look, there's 200,000 Somalis that are suffering from a flood.
Yeah.
I don't see the rest of when it was Kashmir, it's a totally different opposite side when they had their mudslide. And I'm thinking to myself, this was in the space of a month. Look, and they're both two Muslim nations. La hawla wa la quwwata. So is the Muslim Ummah in shatters, or is there two different types? Is there a black Muslim Ummah, and there's the rest of us?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Actually, this
And that's
idea
where- and-
from you're in a certain part of Africa and you're Muslim, and you can ride on your brother down in the south with arms and guns and whatever and take captives. That idea of this pan-Islamism thing is not. It's a joke. It's something that you say to keep people at bay.
Yes.
But when you're ready to ride, you're gonna ride. And you this is the thing. And this is why I always get vexed when we're talking, even when I'm talking to people like Shaka and whatever, and people say you have no loyalties to nationalism and whatever. Do you know what? I've looked into it and I prefer the term patriotic.
Yeah.
Because nationalistic sort of has this because these men use it, these ethno-nationalists, this thing of expanding territory and taking things from people. Nah, I'm just pro my people. Yeah. And I'm not going to allow people to try and push Islamic rhetoric, outside of its context.
To keep your foot soldier.
To keep you subservient, bro.
That's the thing, foot soldier,
bro. And it's so deep, I would say this, people might think I'm wrong or right, but I swear to you, I swear by Allah, Islam would not have taken its firm hold, in the West as it did if it weren't for black people.
Yes. Naam.
I don't care what no one says, bro.
Naam. I believe that.
In the Americas, in the Caribbean, in Europe.
Look at it. We're a 1 billion nation, and we are very highly numbered in this, and I just want to forget.
My feeling about this is, I will always reach out to my wider African family, be they evangelical Christian. I say for the record and for disclosure, my mom is one. Right? I reach out to my Pan-African family, whether they like me or not. And I will reach out to the wider Muslim community, whether they like me or not. But my main focus is not so much that as we Muslim Africans building, being the best Africans and the best Muslims. If we are the best Africans, the other Africans will say there's something in that Islam that we need to be on. We need to be on some of that. And if we are the best Muslims, the other Muslims will turn and say, there's something about the way Africans do Islam. They got this thing rocking.
Come on.
You see what I'm saying? And that's all. I am too old to care when people call me a racist. It doesn't bother me. I've heard this since I was 17.
But you're gonna get it from Tarafain though. You're gonna get it from two sides.
One side's
gonna say you got no wala wal bara as well.
They're gonna tell you. Listen, you got to know yourself. Listen, the Quran tells you speak up for truth, even if it's against yourself. Right. So that's what we should be about. We're not here to self-flagellate in public. But what we're doing is, if we were wrong, we'll say yes, Muslims did this. Does the Quran and Hadith allow it? No, it doesn't. So the Muslims were wrong, and we distance ourselves from that behavior. This is what we should be doing. And we're trying to do it now. That's it. I think we have to, but where people are saying, oh, but you also shot the deputy. You killed the sheriff and the... So no, we shot the sheriff.
We didn't shoot the deputy.
But we did not shoot the deputy.
We don't know who shot the deputy. We don't know. Big question, man.
Brothers,
it wasn't me. You don't know
on that one.
On that note, thank you all very much. I'm glad that we did this little part too, because there's some things that was in my mind and you all brought it out. And inshallah, we should keep this sort of discussion going. Sisters, thank you all for your presence. Jazakumullah khairan. Lovely to see you all. I'm going to bow now. Assalamu alaikum.
Have a quick cigarette break. Eesa.
Bro, can I tell you something?
Wait for a bit.
Eesa. Eesa, do the Alice Stewart thing. You go smoke. No, man. You on that?
So you were saying basically it's yeah, bro, so you were saying that basically the Muslims generally, they don't care about black people. They just think about Palestine. I agree about that, obviously. The thing is, basically, I think why that is because the media. So look at the Arab media. Which Muslim media is allowed to say it's the Arab media, right? Compared to Nigerian Muslims, or is your thing that on the West African the problem is, sorry, the problem is. Do you know the problem is? Can I have a few got points? I think you've got points. The thing is, brother, and it's the same thing. You don't understand. You could understand. You could have a little idea of how you feel, how you see. But brother, I'm saying you also do what our blacks. I'm coming from 25. This is my statement. There's things that you don't fathom. I go through. Listen, I'll tell you how I've been to your countries and I've experienced things. Eesa, I'm not even in that. Everyone's going through me in the queue. Me and Allah yarham the left hand, my mum. Broke the next one, I'm pushing on. Yeah. Oh, your boy King, you don't walk up. What the fuck? Zaman, yes, Aki. So, Aki, I say, I'm one of them people. I'm calling out white extremism. There's something filthy up. No, man, it's bullshit. It's Arabs. When I went back home, when I went back home 2003, when I went back to 2017 now, I've got 18 months there. We're trying to be recognised, we're trying to come away from the whole. The Syrians in Iraq, hold on.
One thing you lot don't get is when it's the other way around, bro. One man's in your life.
You said you people. You said Arabs. Who's Arab? What's an Arab? What's an Arab?
That looks like you.
That's wrong, bro. You know I'm not an Arab. Like
I don't know what the fuck you are, bro. Someone that looks like you. Hold on, brother, I'm speaking to you.
One sec.
Hey, yo.
You told them that.
More. Maybe it's a sign for me.
No, there's my man. He's got a like afro.
Yeah, obviously you know, but I'm saying that generally speaking, the society itself doesn't seem to. You say to someone from Lebanon, you're probably Turkish.
So basically, bro, these people had Turkish slaves, they had white slaves. Some people like they feel like the how are you right? Who's Arab? Who's Arab? Arab.
On a large scale, that is beside the point. What the brother is concerned about is black people in those countries now. Like, there are Palestinians who are migrants, and we've been told that they look down on black people. What gives you the right? Like, on one thing,
They're having that conversation over there as well.
we call upon the Ummah to help, right? And then, when you're from those proximity, there's no time.
Big, you want some bread? People are dumb. Majority of people. Work on bread. Except the media.
Listen, brother. Which goes with
What's the point? I'm not debating. I've seen black people. I've seen black people.
Okay. What is your premise? What do you disagree with what I've said?
I'm disagreeing. I'm just saying.
Trying to add another facet.
What other facet?
I'm trying to say, bro, is
Arabs. I'm saying Arabs. Not Arabs or Muslims. I'm saying Arabs.
Most Arabs are. Most Arabs that you come in contact with are Muslims.
Not all Arabs are Muslims.
The reason why I say that, Khalid, is because I'm Steve, my boy Steve, Lebanese, Christian, Arab, and his brother, they're blessed. Generally speaking, I've not found this amongst Arab Christians. I do find it amongst Arab Muslims. And I'm not saying Arab Christians are free from it, but our interaction with Muslims is more prevalent. But listen, let him get out. If he's got something wrong, listen.
What I'm trying to say is you're trying. I'm not trying to do nothing. I'm trying to know from Adam. I'm trying to do something. You're trying. I think you're trying. That's why I'm not trying to do. So you're saying it's generalizing the Muslim, Arab Muslims. I'm just saying they don't care about the blacks. I'm saying Arab Muslims are the most. When it comes to racism, you guys are on a whole different level.
Everyone should have nuance in their conversations. That's my only thing.
They're not white, black,
acknowledge they're wrong, yeah, but saying all white people are
You're not being genuine. I am.
you're being yeah, you see I know you're happy. I'm trying to feel this, bro. Let me say what he needs to say.
I agree with you. Hold up that conversation. My point is, I don't think that. We do, but we don't see it in the media. We don't see it in the media.
Oh, so you're saying that? So what you saying, the Arab your problems are more highlighted. Empathize with your problems.
Exactly. I'm saying this. That's what it's. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's your fault.
Come take over everything from your
Come, man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
Hello, this is Hyde Park, the Speaker's Corner, and I am having a solo on sexism in the park and prejudice against women, misogyny, women exploitation, and all that nasty stuff that is going on under capitalism. First of all, capitalism is an evolving system that keeps on changing, and as it changes, it unleashes new economic forces. The economic forces unleashed by capitalism are forces for progress. Progress in the sense that